Alright, so today I'm going to be talking about the altered scale, different uses that we can do on the altered scale, and for this video I'm going to be using the altered scale in a Roman numeral 5-chord functionality, 5 going to 1. In this particular case, I'm going to use concert G7, and I'm going to make it very simple. This is something that you can do if you have access to a piano or a keyboard at home or at school or wherever you happen to be. I'm going to play some very simple voicings on the piano, just root, 7th, and 3rd of concert G. And what this does is it just gives you that dominant sound, but it doesn't give you any sort of clue as to what kind of dominant sound. Playing dominant or an altered sound, type sound. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be filling in that information by what I play. So using the altered scale to change the sound of this very simple shell voicing into whatever I want it to be. So I can change it into diminished if I want to, which is an entirely different video that we'll be doing at some point. But right now, we're just going to focus in on the altered scale. So concert G7 altered, that would be going to say, a concert C major. Or it could even go concert G7 to C minor. The functionality kind of remains the same with this. A root, 7th, 3rd, and then the altered scale. So what is the altered scale? Simple way of getting to the altered scale is simply thinking in ascending melodic minor or minor major scale. Major scale with a flat 3rd, or I guess a minor scale with a Dorian minor scale with a raised 7th. However you want to view it. It's essentially the 7th mode of ascending melodic minor if you want to think that. So whatever your root is, you could think up a half step, that minor major scale, and it will give you the note set of altered. So if I'm talking about, G7, that's root, flat 9, sharp 9, major 3rd, sharp 11 or flat 5, flat 13, 7, and then back to your root again. Versus, concert A flat minor major 7. And that gives you the altered set. Now, I say it gives you the altered set because you don't necessarily just want to go out and play that concert A flat minor major scale and think in that context, because we're still in the context of a G7 taking place right now. All your scale degrees go off of that. So it's just a quick way of kind of reminding yourself what my note set is. And that's just the tip of the iceberg there, getting that note set together. To me, the interesting thing about the altered scale is some people refer to the scale as, or to the sound set as the diminished whole tone scale. Because from a linear functionality, from a scalar functionality of it, we can bring out a quasi diminished sound and a quasi whole tone sound from it. So again. So I'm getting, whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step. which is essentially that's the pattern of a diminished scale. It just doesn't give you the completed diminished sound, which I said is for another video. So that's the fully diminished sound and different functionality, different set of rules that we're going to be going into for that video. But for the altered scale, I can give you a little snippet of that diminished sound. And I can also give you a little snippet of the whole tone sound. So if I start on the third, scale degree 3 in G7, and I'm going to talk in scale degrees in case you're playing an alto saxophone or a tenor saxophone, or if you're in a concert pitch instrument. Concert pitch instrument, you're good to go. So I get 5 notes of the whole tone scale, and it's only a 6-note scale, the whole tone scale. So you're most of the way there. I can emulate that whole tone sound. That would be the whole entirety of the whole tone scale. The only thing that differentiates the whole tone scale from the altered scale is that in the altered scale we have that flat 9. So that's where we start to change up and dive into the kind of the power that exists inside of the altered scale, and these linear functionalities that give it kind of a whole tone sound and kind of a diminished sound if you wanted to. The next part of the way I like to use the altered scale is more in a vertical context rather than that linear functionality, that scalar functionality. Now it's about bringing out the vertical context that exists within this scale. So one of the first things is I try to identify if I have things like major or close to major triads that are contained within the scale. There are sort of 3, or I should say there are 3 that I really think about. One is what I call the root augmented triad. So you get a 1, major 3, sharp 5, or flat 13. They both exist in that same realm sound. So either way, it gives me an augmented triad off of the root. And augmented triads are symmetrical, so if I invert them, I could get that augmented triad off of the third, or augmented triad off of the sharp 5 / flat 13. The other triads that I get is a tritone away from the root. So now I get a concert D flat triad. And then I get one more major triad, which is located a whole step above that, or on the flat 13 / sharp 5. So, to recap, I've got an augmented triad off the root. I've got a major triad off of the tritone, or sharp 11, and I've got a major triad a whole step above that, which is at the flat 13. I'll call it that. So all of these together, you can use them individually, but they don't necessarily give you all of the story. So what I try to do is I try to pair these in groups of 2 if I can. For instance, one of the classic ones would be pairing the root augmented triad with the tritone triad. And so I'm just kind kind of going back and forth. I'm going in these like 4-note groupings of the triad. And all of that gives me a note set of 2 triads that really bring out the altered sound. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 6 notes and turn them into a scale. So I'll keep playing the sound back here. And all of that, is something that I can use to eventually resolve into my concert C. So that's one approach to pairing triads. I don't normally pair the root augmented triad with the major triad built off of the flat 13 because it's really only 1 note different. But it does give kind of a fun and unique sound. So it's almost like really just kind of having that augmented triad, root augmented triad, including a sharp 9 or that half step below the major third. So it's mostly just kind of that augmented type sound with a little half step thrown in the middle of it. The other thing you can do is you can pair the major triads that are whole step apart, located on the tritone from the root and a whole step above that. And it kind of goes, because now we're dealing with 2 sets of whole tone triads, whole tone apart triads. It starts to pull the functionality of the chord. Even kind of like confuses the ear a little bit in terms of what key am I actually playing in. Almost even sounds like I could be playing in concert E flat at the moment. But really, the root is that concert G. So that's where the conflict starts to arise. And all of that again, I can pair that up in its sort of its own mindset and turn it into a scale. And that's kind of the way I'm framing it up when I put those two whole step apart triads, major triads, together like a six note scale. And that's resolving it into the key of C major. You can hear a real distinct kind of like change to everything as soon as I snap into that concert C major part. So it's a fun kind of departure, yet not breaking any rules. Just staying completely within the altered scale in this set. So pairing all of this stuff together, it kind of becomes a game of just trial and error, finding the sounds that you like, that sound good to you, that you've heard when you listen to other music out there, because that's the other important part about all of this. You can sit in a practice room, try all these things from almost mathematical standpoint, and not completely make it kind of connect when you're soloing. It's good to be able to have the facility for all of this. And having that sound in there, but how do I make that work in the moment and all that kind of stuff? That comes from experience, from listening, from practicing, and kind of approaching it in a formulaic-esque way. But you still, in the end, want it to be organic. You want it to come out and not sound like activate lick number 7. Which is a good place to start. Don't get me wrong. It's a good place to start to understand those sounds. But hopefully you'll get to that point where it becomes more organic. So you can have it sound like that basic sound, but also the creativity and the improvisation comes into it. The last thing you could do is I also like to bring out what I think of as an augmented major 7 sound from this, which is built off of the 3rd scale degree. In this particular case, it would be concert B augmented major 7, 1 3 sharp 5 and 7 of B. And that incorporates the concert E flat triad that's in the mix. But now you're getting the concert B as well. And it kind of gives you that classic sort of sound into the sharp 9 and into the flat 9, resolving to the 5 or the 1 chord. So that is the altered scale in a nutshell.